There's not a whole lot I'm going to be bringing to you tonight that we haven't talked about before. I chose to make copies of this Gulf War syndrome because this is, you look at the date on those, this is what first got me politically active. That was in 1991. That was when my oldest son graduated from high school. That was when I started thinking about where he's going and what he'll be doing. Because when I graduated from high school, I was looking at the Vietnam War. And I was ready to go. I wasn't, I didn't have enough knowledge pro or con in the Vietnam War. I would have went because it was my duty. And I was ready to go. I was 6 numbers away from being drafted. Okay, you take it for a second. I think you got it. Testing 1, 2. Testing. Testing 1, 2. Testing. I think I was 6 numbers away from being drafted. So I was aware that far back, when my son became of age and graduated, I started thinking about, will we be sending him? And where will we be sending him? And then I got to thinking about all the ones that we have sent. And quite frankly, I sort of sent them in silence too. I'm going to put this away. You know what? I need to do it because Mike's putting it on YouTube. So you hear me talk a lot about sending our folks in silence. We bring a soldier home several times. We've had the occasion to see what it does. 3 of them here in this caucus personally. We've got an up-close and personal look at what sending them over there does. Don't want to minimize the folks who went to Vietnam. Right now, what's relevant to us is the silence and sending. The country slept while we went to Vietnam, and we sent folks that paid a horrific price, and we're doing it again. Those things that I gave you right there were my awakening. That's why I printed them tonight. I don't know what to give you tonight. We can talk about the elections. We can talk about some stuff that's going on. We can talk about who you support. We can talk about who I support. I really don't support anybody. It's who I don't support is what's relevant to me. I'm a little hard on Ted Cruz for the Fast Track Authority. I kind of like Carly Sirianni because she can change the landscape of the Electoral College. I like to say that Karl Rove will need a chalkboard instead of a whiteboard when Carly Sirianni gets in the race because it changes the demographics of each state. And I like that. There's nothing, and I'm not going to criticize anybody who disagrees with me on this because I don't think there's a right or wrong. Yeah, I like Ted Cruz. But he cannot change. If Donald Trump, as I think he will, goes third party, then I do not think that Ted Cruz can have the dynamics to overcome the Bill Clinton tactic that having the third party like got him elected with Ross Perot. I want to talk a little bit about the why of why it's necessary, our policies in the Middle East. We do understand that we're Saudi Arabia friendly. We're going to have, by the way, let me get a couple announcements out of the way. Next week we're going to begin an 8 o'clock start.
All right, no problem.
And 8 o'clock till 11. We've got that okayed by Tony. After 11 o'clock, if we want to have anything else going on, we're going to move back over to the back room. And if anybody wants to have conversation out here, it has to be at one table only. We can't have cross because we're turning this section back over to the restroom at 11 o'clock. Next Friday at 9 o'clock, we're going to start at 8, but at 9 o'clock, we're going to have via Skype General Paul Vallely. And he's going to be, and the reason I wanted to bring this and mix it in with what my opening remarks are, he's going to be talking about the relocation of people claiming asylum from Syria. And today I had the opportunity to go speak. Well, I didn't get to do it because I was in the wrong place. I was going to talk with Representative Pesto about a thing up in his district, and I didn't get to talk to him, but I got to see a lot of Chaldeans. And I got to understand something about the Chaldeans. They are Christian Iraqis. That's their homeland. The Chaldeans are the ones who are being beheaded over there and who are being chased out of their homelands. They're the ones who don't get asylum here. They're the ones who are, 20 of them are being held in San Diego right now because of national security. Christian Chaldeans are being delayed. They're not being relocated. Now here's what we're doing with the Islamic. Now see, they're Arab, but they're not Islamic. You see, there's a difference. Everybody over there, just about, is Arab, but it doesn't mean they're Islamic. Chaldeans are Christian. This relocation program, taxpayer funded, we're going to have Dick Manaseri come, and he's going to present a PowerPoint and show us just how many people are being relocated from Iraq and Syria that are potential sleepers. Now, the one thing you know about a Chaldean Christian, they're not sleepers. They have no motive beyond wanting to get here and be in a better place. There are some Muslims who want the same thing, but you can't tell me, this is going in and out, I think it's this connection right here. You can't tell me that they can filter through and know. There's 95% of the people coming from Syria are getting the relocation, taxpayer funded, and most of them are coming to Dearborn, and most of them, Dearborn and Grand Rapids, are being relocated. That's what Paul Vallely and Dick Manaseri is going to be talking about. General Paul Vallely is an American hero, folks. He was in Syria. He was heading up the Free Syria Army against trying to take their country back from Assad, the president of Syria. And this all plays into what caused Gulf War illness. And those chemical and biological weapons that John Tomlinson, last couple of weeks we had John here, has affected him so negatively. Tony Lalio, we had him about a year ago. We raised money for the fallen and wounded soldiers a few years back, almost $10,000. Combined total of what they got donated at the event plus what we donated, it came to almost $10,000. So we had an emphasis on people who were affected negatively that went and breathed those chemicals and weapons of mass destruction. Now I heard Lindsey Graham today say that apparently there's been mustard gas used on the Kurds over there. And Lindsey Graham wouldn't call mustard gas a weapon of mass destruction. Well, it's chemical and biologicals, and they have been referred to in the past as weapons of mass destruction. See, when we went into Iraq, the media wanted only to call weapons of mass destruction a nuclear weapon. Well, we knew he didn't have nuclear weapons, and we did know that he had weapons of mass destruction with chemical and biologicals. And that's why I printed this up, because that's what got me motivated, folks. We'll get some new folks came in. Would you the why of it is so important. Why? Why are we having bad policy toward Saudi Arabia? And why does both sides of the aisle, Republicans and Democrats, partake in bad policy? And I have a few notions about it, I have a couple of ideas. Well, I think I'm right. It's the debt machine that the new society that we have has incurred. We have so much debt, and the thing that I have talked about often, and we have to keep talking about, because I think it's the thing that motivates every single politician that we send to Washington. I think it's the reason that Donald Trump is so popular. I think it's the reason Carlos Fiana is so popular. The outsiders, the non-political class, the reason they're popular is because they're not going to answer this call to this thing called the military-industrial complex, which promotes war. I said before that there is just no money in peace as far as these companies go, but the bad thing is you want those companies in our country making those weapons for us, except for chemical and biologicals are against international law. So why was Saddam Hussein in possession of those? See, the why of that is so very important. And it goes back to these OPEC nations having to purchase our debt with the money that they make on the exchange of the currency when they sell their oil in US dollars, because countries have to exchange their currency to dollars to buy the oil. Okay, now that's a pretty good deal, for us. We can afford this debt. We can go on, see, because George W. made as much debt as we would have thought a Democrat would have done. Now, I don't know comparatively to he and Bill Clinton how much each of them contributed to the national debt, but it didn't go down. And it doesn't appear that it's going to, no matter who we get elected. That debt is going to continue to fly. Now, what's the consequence of that? The consequence of continuing to spend money we don't have is bad policy toward Saudi Arabia. Because Saudi Arabia will continue to sell oil in US dollars as long as we are friendly to them. That's why we won't deal with ISIS, folks. That's why we won't deal with Al-Qaeda. That's why the Wahhabis, who are the populace of Saudi Arabia, the Wahhabis are so anti-American because they don't like what we're doing with their oil. See, the leadership of Saudi Arabia is secular. Now, I talked to some Chaldeans today. The Chaldeans of Iraq don't want a religious government. Now, you would think that Christians would really like to have a religious government, but think about their religious government and what religion it's going to be. It's going to be a religion that's going to defile Christians. They're going to cut Christians' heads off because their religious government, there's quite frankly more, if you have the democracy that we say we want all countries to have, they're going to get an Islamic republic with Islamic rule where Sharia law rules, which is what they're trying to do here, folks. Whether you want to believe that or not, I'm saying it. So they want an Islamic caliphate here, and they want Sharia law here. It'll come to where we understand it. I don't know how long it will take us to start resisting it, but I want us to understand why our policies. We've been, and I sit in front of the TV and I watch MSNBC because I like looking how the other side analyzes things, and you learn a lot like that. And I watch Fox, and I see that Fox is friendly to Fox and Friends. Fox is friendly to this notion of Jeb Bush and the war machine that eventually will happen when Jeb gets elected. This is why I'm opposing Jeb Bush. Even Hillary will authorize the military-industrial complex to continue to be able to afford our debt because there's money in that. The whole country will have jobs because the military-industrial complex will have to make those weapons. And do we really want to do we want to sear our conscience on the altar of that commerce? Really? Do we want to do that? Because we've done it a lot in the past, because we don't care to do the homework, the hard homework. I went and spent $50 tonight on a new ink cartridge, and this takes paper, and that took me about 2 hours to get that thing done. There is homework, there's hard things that we have to do, but I wanted to impart a little bit of my passion to you, what got me started. It may be the thing that causes me to stop. Because I'm going to tell you, there is nothing more important than we can do as a Tea Party across the nation or right here at home than to defend the integrity and the people that we send over there, and when we bring them home, to let them know that how we support them and that we will not send more consignments. Because we are doing this. When Bill Clinton calls Donald Trump 2 weeks before he announces and says, "We want you to run,"
Oh, we have water in here.
what kind of conflict is that? Does anybody think that Donald Trump had an epiphany? All of a sudden he's a conservative? You know, we really got into, this caucus really got into it over Mitt Romney, didn't we? Because the director thought that, what was the word? Pragmatics?
You were being pragmatic.
Pragmatic, I was looking for that word. I thought Mitt Romney would be conservative enough. I thought that he would be another Ronald Reagan who was a Democrat. Well, Donald Trump is citing Ronald Reagan. Well, I got something to say to Donald Trump. Donald Trump, I knew Ronald Reagan. I was politically aware when Ronald Reagan was president. Donald Trump, you're no Ronald Reagan. That Vincent fellow, I'm stealing the line from him. But he had compared himself to Ronald Reagan. The epiphany of change. He hasn't had an epiphany. What Donald Trump is doing is very smart. But he is still against guns. He's against your gun rights. He wants to say he's not, but he don't want you having AR-15s. And the AR-15 is just the beginning of limitation on your gun rights. He wants to fund part of Planned Parenthood. So, you know, he plays the middle in the name of a conservative. If you think that Donald Trump is a conservative, well, you're going to find out. That's where I stand on that. I think the plan is for him to go third party. I think that's where he's going to go. Now, if he does go third party, and I wanted to talk a little bit about why we are not having the right policies on Saudi Arabia and Islam. Why we're Islam friendly. Why are we Islam friendly? I'll get back to the Donald Trump third party thing, but why are we Islam friendly? Has anybody got it figured out? Because I think I know. But, you know, I get up here, I get this microphone every Friday, and I get to say what I think, and I want you folks to tell me what you think and tell me how you disagree with me, but I think I know why we're Islam friendly. I think it's the golden egg that goose lays over there, and that's the debt that they purchase. Our debt is, the purchase of our debt is the golden egg that the Islamic goose lays. If we cook that goose, or we allow that goose to be cooked, then we cannot afford all of these social programs, all of these good things that we do in the name of good. We can't afford them. We can't afford them anyway. The consequence of our debt is horrendous. But we can keep kicking that bucket down the road if we can get those OPEC nations to continue to purchase our treasury bills, folks. This is that petro bargain deal that I talked about. You may be tired of hearing about it, but I think you need to consider it, that Henry Kissinger made in the early 70s with Saudi Arabia. We'll give you protection from Israel if it is that you will sell your oil in US dollars. And they thought that was a pretty good deal, so they did that. But part of the provision, and so did all 10 other OPEC nations did it, because it was a good deal for their protection of their oil wells. But part of the small print in that agreement was this. When Germany has to buy American dollars to purchase your oil, the money that you make, and even the money that the money that Saudi Arabia or an OPEC nation makes on the exchange of that currency, they have to use a certain percentage of that profit to buy U.S. Treasury bills. That was in that agreement. Will we not understand why that politicians who get taken into the back room and educated, once they get there, then they have to violate the promises that they made to us, because they find something out that we have to give the authority to this president or that president to go in and protect that petrodollar bargain, because they're going to stop buying our debt. Because we can't stop debting. We tried that. We tried reaching for remedy in the Republican Party. We tried sending people to the state and to the federal government who says, cut this spending. They don't last. They get sent back. Either that, or they change their minds when they get taken back into that little room, and they get told what for, and they said, here's the consequence of not authorizing war to go in after those weapons of mass destruction. See, that's not the reason we went into Iraq. I want to keep talking about it, because it has relevance in Benghazi. I'm going to hook Benghazi up to this too, but I'm going to tell you right now, we need never to forget that we knew he had those weapons of mass destruction. And I'm going to tell you, those pages that I gave you right there is living evidence, and I can verify personally that what those things are telling you is truth. By personal experience, I can verify it. The doxycycline treatment in there is absolutely truthful, because I have had to have it. I won't go into that so much tonight. I'm going to tell you I can verify that's true, and that's why I wanted to give it to you, because that's what activated, that's what got me active in representing the interests of those young men and women that we send over there, because I went through that Gulf War syndrome, and the story of how I caught it, how I got it, is another night. That's another night. But I'm going to tell you that remedy that's in there, Dr. Garth Nicholson and his wife, and Joyce Riley. Joyce Riley seminar was how I got it. You'll read about that Air Force captain in there and what she was saying about it. But that's how I got Gulf War syndrome. And I'm going to tell you, doxycycline took care of it. But I'm left with a disorder, a muscular disorder, that it takes me 2 hours every morning for my muscles to release, even with the remedy that I got from doxycycline. That's why I call it my office hours in the morning. It just takes me 2 hours. Okay, so I'm going to personally verify that's true. But here's the thing we got to understand, folks. Why did they have those weapons of mass destruction? I'm going to call them that, not nuclear weapons. Why did Saddam Hussein have that? Because the Shah of Iran, and I keep talking about it, hope you don't get bored with it, because we need to understand it's what motivates bad policy. It's why both sides of the aisle will do the same thing, no matter who gets elected. That's why we need either a Donald Trump, or a Carly Fiorina, or a Ted Cruz. You know, I really don't care which one. I just don't want the political class that's going to go into that back room and be changed. Because neither one of them will. But here's the consequence of why they had those weapons of mass destruction. See, George Bush Daddy, illegally, when he was CIA agent or director, was a major stockholder in 2 companies in Boca Raton, Florida, who made chemical biological weapons. So he was, some of this is conjecture, and if you had asked me to prove it, the court of law couldn't do it. But I'm going to tell you, as CIA director, he fomented this plan to have Saddam Hussein receive those illegal weapons of mass destruction. Why? Because the Shah of Iran was overthrown a few years earlier, maybe 10. Something else? Usually I like to hear people laugh when I tell a joke, but the Shah of Iran was overthrown, deposed, and the reason was that they nationalized the oil, and they had the Ayatollah Khomeini was going to come back again. He was thrown out earlier, and now they have the Islamic Republic of Iran after they threw out the Shah. Now, the Islamic Republic of Iran dumped the dollar in the sale of oil. You see something in common with Iraq? That was way back then. So, the tables turned, because when the Shah was the president of Iran, or the leader of Iran, Iran was our ally. Saddam Hussein was not our ally. As a matter of fact, Germany, they were allied. But when the Shah was deposed and Ayatollah Khomeini dumped our dollar and nationalized the oil and held our hostages, who remembers that? Okay? They took the hostages. So, in order to energize and strengthen the neighbor, Saddam Hussein, to do a bidding that we would not do, George Bush Sr. put together a plan to give him weapons of mass destruction. Okay, folks, right now it's going to be hard to criticize a plan that's going to rescue our. They were CIA agents. Don't ever let that deceive you. There were some just consulate workers. There were some of those, but I think there were 60 altogether. So it's going to be hard to criticize a plan that's going to the end result. They want to free those folks, and they want to use Saddam Hussein to go to war with Iran in order to get that done. Well, it worked because Saddam Hussein, he actually used it on the Kurds too. Remember how many Kurds were killed with those weapons of mass destruction that he got from us, Saddam Hussein got from us? He used that, and he did use them on Iran, and he could have won that war. I think it was a 6-day war with Iran, maybe 6 years. It was, but he had that war won, but he backed out of it. He cut a deal, and George Bush and Saddam Hussein became very bad enemies after that, because we set him up to take Iran out, and he decided not to do it. So he's got these weapons of mass destruction, and the reason that John Tomlinson was so relevant to this discussion, and I continue on with it, is because John was at ground zero. When you see that he can't walk right, you see that he takes a little bit longer to get his thoughts together, you see that he's in here 3 times a week, going to the VA hospitals, living out on the other side of Adrian, and he comes in here, and he'll stop and have breakfast with him when he'll wait. He has 3 appointments a day. Because of what? Those chemical and biological weapons that he breathed in, and what was he doing over there at ground zero? He was ordered to blow them up. The weapons of mass destruction that he didn't have, that Saddam Hussein didn't have. Now, the thing that's relevant to John's experience is that he can bear witness to the contention that I'm making that they came from the United States. Because he, right in this caucus, said he saw the name tags of where they came from on them, and that they didn't blow them all up. Only about 1/3 of them were blown up. But when he blew them up, he breathed them, folks. Tony Lalio, they were in the sand over there when he was there, and he breathed them. And he has a thing that mimics Lou Gehrig's disease, and that's what they characterized it as. But they said it was from his service in Iraq, from breathing those weapons, those biologicals and chemicals. And he's not going to be with us next year. Just had a new baby. This is not for Tony at the restaurant. It's Tony Lalio, another Tea Party over rattling with us. And you know, when I see that, I'm motivated to find out why. I'm motivated. I want to know why, because you know, the reason I want to know, the reason I think we can't stop talking about it, is because there's going to be more Tonys, there's going to be more Johns. And if we continue just to elect people that we think are good, that go up there and change everything that they promised us that they would do, or get kicked out one or the other, then we are supporting a political system that's going to continue to bring these kind of folks home, or not come home at all. See, what about Benghazi? What about Syria? Why is it so important right now? Because the 1/3 of those weapons that now blew up, there was 2/3 left. We sit right here, well, maybe there's the rest over there, and we actually, there's several of us here who were taking, watching that really closely, what happened to those weapons that were left. And there were satellite images, folks, satellite images that the media just wanted to wash over of many Russian trucks leaving Iraq, and guess where they were headed? To Syria, the Bekaa Valley. I'm probably not saying it right. Bekaa Valley. Now, this is Assad. His father then was the president, and now the son is Bashir Assad, I think is his name, is the president now, and he's got control over those weapons. And guess what? ISIS is taking some of them over, and ISIS now has those weapons that were created in Boca Raton, Florida, and we sacrificed everything that we stood for by making them and letting Saddam Hussein have them, and look at where they went, just a lot like our tanks, our Humvees, and our weaponry that we go over there to fight bad people with, and we ended up getting in the hands of bad people. And then they ended up shooting and killing our own good people when we send them over there. See that military-industrial complex thing, Eisenhower was right about it. You have to watch it. It's good to have, but you have to watch it. We have to be vigilant. To the point of vigilantism, if it needs to be. If it needs to be, I hope it never turns into that, but we have to be vigilant. We cannot stop talking about it. We cannot differ with each other so much that you support Trump and I support Carly, that it divides us as a people in this country, that we will authorize in our division, we will authorize the thing that we've always done and not pay attention to what happened in Gaza. And give Hillary Clinton a pass. How many think that Hillary Clinton's going to get a pass on this? On the emails? I think she's going to get a pass. I don't think that they're going to prosecute her. And I think they're not going to prosecute her. And they're my opinion here, folks, disagree with me if you will. But I think what happens is the Democrats who want to support here, it's Al Gore or Feel the Burn, which they will get burned because that polarizes the party. That delineates so much the difference between the Republicans and the communists. You know, Bernie's not going to get that nomination. Al Gore don't think so, and Uncle Biden, I don't know. I don't think so. He's supporting Biden. I would probably donate to his campaign if I had money to get him over Hillary. But I think the Democrats will willingly suspend their disbelief. And it's so apropos to use that on Hillary Clinton. She used that against, who was the fellow for the emails? His name will come to me. Sometimes it just goes away. Petraeus. If you had 4 degrees of seriousness with emails that you couldn't have on your private servers, there's 1st degree, 2nd degree, 3rd degree, and 4th degree. Petraeus' emails is 4th degree, and he spent some time in that. He was just, yeah, he should have gotten more.
He got a pass.
He got a pass,
But
but
he was a major or, you know.
right. George is absolutely right about that. This is serious stuff, folks. And with all the hacking that's been going on, China and Russia has this stuff, and they won't prosecute Hillary Clinton because then the whole world will know that we are compromised. And we don't want the whole world to know that. So the Democrats who are voting for her in primaries, this is my thought, they will willingly suspend their disbelief and they will elect her, which is exactly what the Republican Party wants. The Republican Party wants Hillary Clinton to be nominated because then they release the Benghazi stuff. They've got it. What is the Benghazi stuff? You see, because Syria, Assad, wants to dump the U.S. dollar, which he's already done. Now we're going to go back to this petrodollar bargain again. Assad will allow Russia to take the oil. Sometimes I'm not clear, and sometimes I rewatch these and I said, how in the world did they get my thought from what I just said? So I need to slow down sometimes. Assad will allow the oil to come from Russia, conduited through pipelines in the Syria warm water port through the Mediterranean Ocean to China without using U.S. dollars. See, this is what the Afghanistan war was all about, folks. You haven't heard that, but Russia found a thing called abiotic oil, and you need to understand what that is. There's more oil in the history of oil. We can't control how much oil there is, but Russia found it. And we got to keep the lid on it because we pegged our dollar to oil. If oil goes down to zero, our dollar collapses. That's pretty much what we're protecting over there. But Russia wanted to go through Afghanistan. They wanted to hire the Taliban, Unicloud, and American oil companies wanted to, with that Russian oil that they found, they wanted to go through Afghanistan with oil pipelines to China. But they didn't want to use U.S. dollars for the sale. They weren't going to make China buy it in U.S. dollars. Oh, well, we can't have that. We've got to go with, we've got to form an alliance with what? The Mujahideen. Who's that? Al-Qaeda. That's where that's bin Laden. Mujahideen was the fundamentalists of Saudi Arabia, the Wahhabis. If you know what the Wahhabis is, the ones who believe in Tawhid, the ones who believe in the oneness of God, which sounds kind of innocuous. The oneness of God is the reason that they kill Chaldean Christians, folks. The reason they cut Chaldean Christians' head off is because of the oneness of God. Because Chaldean Christians believe that that Jesus Christ is God. The oneness of God, the first pillar of the Islamic faith, is the oneness of God, and He has no partners. And they will die, they will kill for them. The Hadiths will tell you why they do what they do. So let's go back to Benghazi. Let's go back to the oil not being sold in U.S. dollars. Syria is not going to do that. Russia wants China to get that oil, and China wants that oil. But they don't want to use their U.S. dollars to purchase that oil. They want what they just do with the renminbi, they devalued it. China wants the world currency to be the renminbi. They want to replace the U.S. dollar for world currency. Russia wants that too. Syria is in a position to where they could accomplish that by letting oil go to China without using U.S. dollars. That's going to collapse our currency. That's going to collapse our currency. And many people are saying that it's going to happen anyway. I wish we had more folks here to hear this, but I think the folks who aren't here think more important things are going on. I don't criticize them for that, but I say no. There's not a more important thing that goes on than for us to understand why bad policy goes, why the people that they're working to get elected are going to have authorized bad policy in the Middle East. This is the reason I'm talking about right here, why they will do it. It's the reason why they've always done it. And they'll continue to do it unless we can get folks woke up to the fact that it is bad policy based on protecting a dollar because we spend too much in this country. We thought we could reach for remedy, close that spending gap down, have some more production, get our gross national product up a little bit and close that gap. It's not going to happen. It's just not going to happen. There are people who want this country to go down. They want a new order of the world, and the sovereignty of the United States cannot be intact to have that new order of the world. And it's a non-religious order. It is not an Islamic rule like they want. It is a novus order seclorum, a new order of the ages, and it's secular, non-secular. And that's secular. Non-secular means religious. Secular means non-religious. What will we do? Are we going to set aside and let Hillary Clinton skate on the Benghazi issue? Will we criticize the Republican Party for holding that back in order to get elected? You see, I think that's more important in an election. I think you come out with that right now and you kill Hillary Clinton, figuratively speaking politically, where she stands. You do it now. You don't put a plan together that can go wrong. Because what can happen if Donald Trump goes third party, let me tell you what the consequence could be. George and I talked about it, and we want to do some research on this. There is a scenario by which 26 people can elect the president. Who knows what that might be? Anybody know how 26 votes, and it would be in the form of a person per vote, can elect the president. 26. It's real. It's in the Constitution. Think of this, folks. I've got your attention. I've got your eyebrows lifted, and I want you always to remember that this can happen. If Donald Trump goes third party, which I think he's going to do, there's a good chance of it. What if neither candidate can get 270 electors?
Oh, wow.
Oh, wow. What does that kick in? What does that kick in? Which amendment? 12th Amendment. Nope, not Supreme Court. The 12th Amendment. If no one achieves a majority, 270 electors of the state, then it throws it into the House of Representatives. And I think this is the plan, guys. I think this is the plan. They will not let a constitutionalist or a Tea Party or a Carlos Friano, which is kind of both. They're not going to let Donald Trump. Donald Trump, I think, doesn't want the nomination. I think he's doing Bill Clinton's bidding in order to get this thrown into the 12th Amendment, and then Hillary's got a shot. See, because here's the thing. George doesn't think, I want the demographics checked out on this. And maybe it's the other side guaranteeing that Jeb Bush gets it. I don't know who's doing the guaranteeing, but I can tell you this. There is a real possibility that the 12th Amendment gets invoked this time, if we have that third party, because it almost did before. And if no one gets 270, it goes into, and each delegation from each state gets one vote. So that's 50 votes. And it's a simple majority out of the top 3 elector getters. I've read this pretty closely and I can remember. Out of the top 3 elector getters, the one that gets the majority of the votes, which would be 51, becomes president. The one that gets the second most becomes vice president. Now think of that. Think of that. Whoa. What if say Jim becomes president and Hillary becomes vice president? Because, I mean, we got a possibility there, right? So we got another assassination coming around. I mean, this scenario is pretty bad. If it goes, if one person doesn't get 207. And here's the thing, George and I George always gives me good stuff. See, a delegation, like I think in Michigan we determined that there was 12 districts. 14 now?
9 Republicans, 5 Democrats.
Okay, so that's 14 votes in the state of Michigan. They have to vote on one elector. So they had 9 Democrats, 14 Republicans, so 95. So Michigan's going to go Republican because you got 9 votes against 5. But what's the logistics of the other states? Well, we don't know. George seems to think that it would be highly Republican because of the way the demographics are laid out. Well, we would. Because California obviously is going to be a Democrat.
Well, they get 1 vote.
They only get 1 vote. And that's what's good about it. Founding fathers are pretty smart people.
They only get 1 vote.
They only get 1 vote. But that's definitely, but see, under the 12th Amendment. This is intriguing, folks.
What happens if there's a tie in a state?
There can't, well, I don't,
They gotta work it out.
it can only be 1 vote, so maybe they toss a coin. I don't know. That's not in the Constitution. I know what is in the Constitution is in whatsoever manner they determine, they choose, is the way they send an elector to the state. So if there is a tie, then the states will get to determine how they want to break that tie. It wouldn't be a federal issue. It could be. I'm not sure. Maybe the lieutenant.
Through their House or Senate.
Yeah, they would figure out a way.
How's Ohio expected to go?
Well, that's the thing.